Hello there, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Saturday morning with Nina Warhurst and John Kay.
Our headlines today. Talks go into overtime at COP26 in Glasgow. Can nations reach a deal to reduce the impacts of climate change?
It is official. The conservatorship of Britney Spears has been terminated.
The conservatorship that has controlled Britney Spears' life for 13 years has been brought to an end.
And weather-wise, the weekend is looking mild, fairly cloudy. Most of you will be dry, but there'll be a few spots of rain around. I'll tell you where they are with a full weekend forecast.
He's still going and he's almost there. Owain is nearly 22 hours into his 24-hour drumathon for children in need.
It's Saturday, the 13th of November. Our main story, negotiators at the COP26 Climate Summit have been working through the night to come up with a deal to prevent the worst impacts of climate change.
Yeah, an amended draft agreement is due to be released a bit later today with the aim of keeping global temperature rises to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. Laura Foster has the latest for us.
Is today the day where climate change history is made? We've had nearly 2 weeks of speeches and negotiations, of protests and promises. But the final plan, the deal that will help to protect us from the most damaging impacts of climate change, has yet to be agreed upon. And it needs the backing of every party here. A draft version released early yesterday included watered-down commitments to end the use of coal and other fossil fuels. But many fear it needs to be tougher and ask more from governments.
It's almost unbelievable. I think when I tell people that we've never had a reference to fossil fuels in a COP decision text before, most people find that hard to believe. And so finally, 30 years on, we have a chance of getting a reference. But I have to say it's 2021. The world has warmed by 1.1 degrees Celsius already. And so something is better than nothing is not good enough, right? We need strong language.
Today's draft will be scrutinised for changes. But the hope is the decisions will be formally adopted later this afternoon. But some climate activists are already feeling less than COP-optimistic, saying whatever is agreed won't be enough to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Laura Foster, BBC News, Glasgow.
Well, our chief political correspondent Adam Fleming is in Glasgow for us this morning. Morning, Adam. You have followed every twist and turn of this conference. The fundamental question is, by the end of today, will there be a deal that will make a difference?
Yeah, guys, thank you very much for signing me up for the 14-day climate change conference Children in Need challenge. How long can you go? Yeah, they've missed the deadline, which was 6 o'clock last night, and everyone coming back today. A lot of people stayed up very late last night. Some people missed planes and trains home that they were expecting. What was weird is that this new draft of the final Glasgow agreement came out yesterday morning, kind of around this time, and things seemed quite hunky-dory. But then by yesterday evening, people had basically made objections to all the major elements of it, whether it was this idea that countries return next year and go to the next COP conference in Egypt with more ambitious plans for cutting greenhouse gases. Turns out there were objections to that. The big piece about finance, about rich countries providing money to poorer countries, either to help them to adapt to the effects of climate change now or to future-proof their economies. There's big objections there. And then even there's some very, very, very technical negotiations going on just about the kind of the rule book for the whole climate change process and how it's handled by countries. There are some big, very technical disagreements there. We're expecting a new version of the deal to come out about 8 o'clock this morning, although every time they give a timing for things like that, it ends up slipping by a couple of hours. All the countries will get together again in the big meeting room over there at about 11, and that's when we'll get a really clear idea of where things are going, whether those objections have been smoothed over, or actually whether things are going to get worse as we go into the final hours. And the absolute earliest that something could be signed off is mid-afternoon. So it's very hard to say when this is going to end. And then when it does, because the deal is quite complicated, there's lots of elements in there, I think it will come down to kind of who shouts the loudest and most convincingly about how well this whole thing has gone.
A long day ahead for you, Adam. Go and get a coffee. Thank you, Adam Fleming in Glasgow. And we will be speaking to the chair of the Committee on Climate Change, Chris Stark, just after 8 o'clock.
Full eyes, all eyes on Glasgow throughout the morning. 6:05 though. And the legal arrangement that has controlled the personal and financial affairs of the pop star Britney Spears has been ended by a judge in Los Angeles.
For 13 years, the restrictions allowed her father to make decisions for her following a series of mental breakdowns. Our Los Angeles correspondent Sophie Long reports.
This was the moment they'd been dreaming of. Everything they'd been fighting for.
It doesn't feel real. It feels like I'm kind of an out-of-body experience, but it's just so incredible that we were able to actually help make this happen.
After more than 13 years, the pop star was finally granted her freedom in a hearing that lasted just 30 minutes.
So proud of Britney today and for the Free Britney movement, which is going to continue.
The singer was not in court, but her lawyer repeated her words, "I just want my life back." The judge gave it to her, and the man who helped her get it was cheered as he paid tribute to his client's strength and courage and thanked her fans for their fight to free her.
You guys are absolutely the best. You're essential. Britney loves you. You were essential in terms of the suspension of James P. Spears, which happened on September 21. And you were also essential in regard to what happened today.
I want to scream and shout, free Britney now.
Britney has been released from the restrictions imposed when she was a new mother struggling with her mental health immediately and without any further evaluation. But this is just the beginning of the end. Her lawyer has called for an investigation into her father's handling of her $60 million estate and allegations he bugged her bedroom. The star said on social media she loves her fans so much it's crazy and that it was the best day ever. As for what's next for Britney, well, that now is up to just one person, Britney. Sophie Long, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Staying in America, and Donald Trump's former strategist Steve Bannon has been charged with contempt of Congress. He refused to testify on what he knew about the plans for that protest that led to Mr. Trump's supporters storming the US Capitol building back in January. His lawyers claimed that his communications involving the former president were protected.
West Midlands metro services have been suspended for a second time in 5 months after cracks were found on some trams. Engineers will now carry out inspections and repairs on the network, which runs between Birmingham and Wolverhampton. The work is expected to take at least 4 weeks to complete.
It's Saturday morning. We will be checking with Owain shortly because he's been banging away on those drums since, what, 8 o'clock yesterday morning?
Yes, you bobbed over to see him last night, didn't you? How was he then?
He was tired.
Yeah.
I felt quite sorry for him because there'd been all the fuss and all the crowds with him during the day, and then everybody normal went to bed. And he was just there ploughing away. And you saw him this morning.
Well, I saw him this morning at about 4:45. And he was definitely, you know, he looked tired, but he's still beaming, he's still chatting, he's still basically presenting as well as he drums. He's an absolute superstar. Let's have a look at what's happening in the papers. We'll be with Owain shortly. The Times is leading this morning with Boris Johnson's calls for the French President Emmanuel Macron to stop migrants travelling to the UK from France. The paper says that relations between the two countries hit a new low on Friday as the PM accused France of failing to control its borders.
Daily Telegraph this morning reporting that graduates will have to start repaying their student loans sooner under government plans to raise an extra £2.5 billion a year. The paper says it will cost former students around an extra £475 every year.
Meanwhile, the Daily Mirror is leading with further revelations to come about an appeals court case featuring the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The paper reports that Meghan claimed that Prince Harry was constantly berated by his family over her rift with her father.
And the most read story on the BBC News website right now is that story we were just talking about, that the singer Britney Spears has been freed from the conservatorship that ruled her life for 13 years. She's described it as the best day of her life.
Anything inside that's caught your eye, John?
So this has caught my eye. Somebody who's terrified of heights. Look at this. This child is 4 years old. And in America, his name is Jackson Houlding, and he scaled this peak of 12,000 feet using ropes and up and down, and his mum and dad are waiting at the top. Can you imagine seeing your kid doing that?
Oh my goodness, I can't imagine my kids doing that. They wouldn't jump off a sofa. So do you remember the film Castaway?
Yes,
with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And do you remember his little pal, the volleyball?
That's right. Yeah, and he lost all the weight for the film, didn't he? To play he's stuck on the island. Yeah.
Well, little Wilson, the adapted volleyball which became his best friend,
yes,
has just gone to auction. It was expected to fetch about £60,000. Someone's paid 230 grand to have Wilson in their home. It was a great film, but that is a lot of money.
A lot of money for Wilson. We've talked a lot about internet dating, haven't we, over the last few years, and how the pandemic particularly put us in front of screens more. Well, this couple with this ring, the bride and Zoom, according to The Sun this morning. This is Britt A's and Darren, and they met online during the pandemic. They've now married over Zoom, and they've still not actually met in the flesh.
Is that legal?
Well, apparently it is in America. You do anything in America, can't you? But yeah, it is legal. It's completely legal. They said, we are married, it's official, and I can't believe it.
I think that's really
Neither
sweet.
can their families.
I think it's really romantic. And finally, you won't believe this, ABBA, have you heard of this band, ABBA?
I have heard of them. I'm aware of their work.
They're quite popular, and they've secured their first #1. This is their first #1 album in 40 years after their latest album shot straight to the top of the charts. Voyage also became 2021's fastest-selling album, racking up 204,000 sales in its first 7 days.
They're going to be big, I reckon.
They've got potential.
I think they have. They should go on a reality show.
It is quite edifying because everybody said you can't come back and do what's very much a similar formula to what they had in the 70s and 80s, but actually
still works.
Still working.
And it's working for them.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.